Good morning. I am really glad that I get to go first at this Creating with the Creator moment because you have no expectations and I don't have to follow somebody who really nailed it last week. When Natalie first asked me to do this, my initial thought was, I'm not creative. And by that I mean, I don't do artsy, craftsy things. I don't paint, sculpt, or draw. I don't make jewelry, or have a knack for decorating, or put together an amazing outfit from things I bought at the thrift store. I don't act, or write poetry, or sew. I just don't really think of myself as a creative person. Natalie suggested that I play the flute, but I think she was imagining an accomplished flautist that would really play beautifully, and I am at best a decent member of the Joyful Noise Band here each year at Advent, especially considering that's the only time of the year that I play my flute. I do sing, of course, but I already do that every week, so that didn't feel like really special. So I started thinking, surely there's something. And during COVID, when nobody was going to restaurants, I feel like I got really good at making a margarita on the rocks because I wasn't getting my outside margaritas anymore. But I felt like showing you how to make a margarita was a bridge too far, even for UBC. But that got me to thinking about when I was in college, I took a speech class, and this was the early 80s. The drinking age was 18, so everybody in college was legal to drink. And a guy in my class, we had to do an instructional speech, and he brought all the ingredients and showed how to make a margarita. But remembering that made me think, what did I do in my instructional speech? And maybe that's something I can, come off of. Well, it wasn't. I was a journalism and English major, and I showed people how to lay out the front page of a newspaper. This was the 80s. Newspapers were still a pretty big thing then. But now that we all have these little black boxes that we carry around and read all the time and that make us sad, I decided we don't need newspapers and you don't want to learn my 20th century skill. So yeah, in college I learned to lay out the front page of a paper, write feature stories about visiting poetry professors, and compose editorials about tax policy. In my English classes, I read Shakespeare and modern American novels and Victorian poetry, and I wrote a lot of papers about them. And that's when it hit me, storytelling. I can be a storyteller. So how does that tie in with my faith and the expression of my faith? How do I create with the Creator? Well, each fall, UBC puts together an Advent devotional booklet, and I always sign up and write a devotional or two if needed for that. My style tends towards storytelling rather than in-depth theological analysis, so that works out pretty well for me. And then there's other ways I use my writing to connect with the divine. Last May, when I was composing my remarks that I was going to read at my dad's funeral, that felt like a really sacred use of my storytelling abilities. And this past November, as I sat and thought about what to say in my toast at our son's wedding, again, I wanted to tell a story that was, in its own way, a kind of holy story about the love of this young couple who had just committed their lives to each other. So yeah, I guess I do have a creative ability that I use in ways that connect me to the sacred and the divine. And that is the story of how I decided to tell you about my storytelling.